What is going on, everybody? It's Patty XRP here with the DeFi Standard, and I got some really exciting news for everybody today. We just heard that the Panther Protocol, which is a layer 2 dApp solution for DeFi privacy, is going to be integrating with the Flare network in the future. So let's kind of dive into what's going on here, what are some of the connections, and what is the CEO of Flare and Panther Protocol saying about this partnership? And without further ado, here we go. So, the Flare Network's Twitter account said that regulatory compliant privacy is a likely prerequisite for the institutional uptake of on chain asset tokenization and trading. We are very excited for the potential that Panther brings to Flare at ZK Panther hashtag unleashing value. So, what they're saying here, institutions right now, there's a few issues with DeFi, and one of those is going to be privacy. You got to think if you're moving tons of money across a blockchain, that you are going to want some level of privacy so your competitors don't know what you're doing, and just individuals that for whatever reason an institution would not want to know where they're moving their money around and how. This is going to provide that for them. And we know that the Flare network is targeting institutional use cases like tokenization, as they bring up here. So privacy is going to be key. And that's something that we have with our transactions in the traditional system. But with blockchain, it's pseudo anonymous, which means that, yes, like there isn't a name attached to every transaction, but if you acquire enough data about a certain user on the blockchain, you may be able to infer who that is. And the people that are able to, do that is a very, it's a very minute percentage of the total population. So I'm talking governments and then firms like Facebook, Google, Apple, Amazon, all those big daddies that you've heard of. So you can see how this will be very important, not for institutions, but also for individuals like us who want to retain our privacy rights. And that's one of the reasons I'm very exciting, because it has a huge use case in DeFi, and not just on Flare Network, it's on all of them as well. All right, moving over to the Medium article that was posted by the Panther Protocol team. So it states Panther Protocol is expanding its interoperability by building on the Flare network. Panther takes the next step to bringing much needed features to the broader industry by providing a compliance friendly privacy protocol, another step forward for the DeFi industry and its access to untapped liquidity. Flare network will prove to be of great interest to decentralized finance as a new smart contract network, bringing the first Turing complete federated Byzantine agreement consensus algorithm to the masses. So that's really great. It goes into, Flare Network unleashing liquidity, or in unleashing value rather, and then also some of the tokens that are going to be F assets from the get-go. So the CEO and co-founder of Panther Protocol is Oliver Gale, and we'll get into him because he has a very interesting history after this. But so he says, we are delighted to work with the best in class, enabling privacy rights for individual and public blockchains. Flare has a powerful tech stack with a focus on institutional integration. It's a big thing there. We are excited to partner with them to build Panther privacy in the Flare ecosystem. And then furthermore, Hugo Fillion, CEO and co-founder of Flare Network, says one element that arose from the GameStop short squeeze saga was the clear and urgent need to allow for privacy when making investments to avoid asymmetric outcomes. Panther's design of a privacy enabling protocol that maintains KYC and AML compliance while keeping users in control of their data is, to my mind, a highly important development and very valuable addition to the Flare ecosystem. So let's take a second to reflect on the GameStop saga and that whole short squeeze that was going on. So asymmetric outcomes are basically ones that are skewed heavily in one direction because some party has an unfair advantage over people. So we know with Robinhood how they were providing what is it, like feeless trades, essentially, that they were taking user data and selling it to big institutions so that they could front run their customers. Well, if we have some privacy built into our transactions on the blockchain, then this makes it harder for entities to front run what they would consider retail investors. So in a sense, what Panther Protocol is doing is they are building a dark pool that allows assets to flow in and out of it, but you're not going to know whose assets those are necessarily. But they do provide ways for institutions to KYC and AML selectively, which I think is a huge thing, because you're not going to get away with totally private transactions. They're taking the middle ground approach, kind of like with what Ripple did when they decided to go after the cross-border payment space on the XRP ledger. So I think that's very important, and I like that they're taking the middle ground. And this is coming from a team that knows all about central bank digital currencies. So let's touch on that briefly here. Okay, so going back to Oliver Gale, he is the founder of Panther Protocol, and coincidentally, he is also the founder of a firm called BIT. And BIT is the world's first central bank digital currency network provider and a blockchain mobile money. I don't even know what PAAS is provider, but I probably should have looked that up beforehand. Um, but yeah, so he's a founder for Bit, and they actually are behind the creation of the sand dollar in the Bahamas. So that's, as many people probably know at this point, the world's first central bank digital currency. So Oliver has, a very interesting perspective, and he's worked with these central banks already and kind of has an idea of what they're looking for, but also believes that privacy and having some privacy rights is key to the sovereign individual, which is what they're trying to do in the Panther Protocol. So, this could link up with CBDCs. That's on their roadmap in the future, as well as DeFi. So, I think this is kind of a pretty big project in what they're targeting in scope at this point. Additionally, here's the website for BIT. They have pages for central banks, services for financial institutions, and all kinds of stuff. So, they're kind of fully scaled out in this regard, and definitely an interesting firm to watch going forward. Additionally, the co-founder of Panther Protocol is Anish Mohammed. And, interestingly enough, if we check out his LinkedIn page, he was on the board of advisors for Ripple from October 2013 to November 2018. So, I mean, he was there pretty much at the beginning and there for 5 years, in an advisory capacity. He also is an advisor on many other projects and for many different countries. He's worked for HSBC, Lloyd's Banking Group. So, he's pretty clued in with, the big financial institutions. He's clued in with fintech and also now tackling like an actual blockchain project. So I find this very interesting. I'm going to have to kind of look back more, me and Mickey are, to see, what was his whole involvement with Ripple, because I find this very interesting since they are looking to get in the CBDC space as well, and Anish now has this connection with Oliver Gale. Also, we have, I'm going to butcher this name really bad, but Akaki Mamagishvili in Zurich, Switzerland, and he is a world-renowned game theorist. He's written many papers on blockchain and game theory, and he's one of the top advisors to the Panther Protocol, and they're kind of centering everything around game theory and the design of their layer 2 decentralized application protocol. So it's extremely exciting to see that as well. And then now to touch on some of the stuff on their website, we can see that Panther Protocol, they're a step into private DeFi, and their goals are to restore financial privacy, protect your alpha and individual freedoms with interoperable zero knowledge assets. So alpha is basically what are your returns above the market. So let's say like the S&P 500 is at 8% for the year. Like how much alpha did you get above that? That's what alpha is. So, let's say you come up with a great trading strategy and people can kind of follow it and then copy it in DeFi. This is going to eliminate that for an institution or an individual that is implementing that strategy. It gives them some protection behind what they're doing so that they can, use that strategy longer rather than it being copied out of existence. Additionally, so Panther Protocol provides DeFi users with interoperable, fully collateralized, privacy-enhancing digital assets, leveraging ZK Snark technology and offering a novel price discovery mechanism for privacy. Users are able to mint zero-knowledge Z assets. So I know how we have F assets on Flare. Z assets are going to be the privacy-enabled assets that go through the Panther Protocol. And by depositing digital assets from any blockchain into Panther vaults and using these Z assets across a full range of DeFi applications. Um, and Panther Protocol says, we believe Z assets will become an ever expanding asset class. Stablecoins, utility tokens, and NFTs will all become infused with privacy. Institutional DeFi and Web3 require privacy to scale and disrupt legacy systems. So, yeah, what's like the market that, you know, privacy enabled DeFi can tackle? Well, it's as big as the market as DeFi can tackle because every single asset could probably, benefit some from having privacy infused into it in a selective manner. And, they say utility tokens, NFTs, stable coins, anything that's out there that's being built on blockchains, it could, people could want to use privacy. So I'd say that, the whole market for it is kind of unknown at this point because we don't know how big DeFi is going to get. So, whatever your personal opinion on that is, I would say that that's what you go with there. And here we can kind of see some of the levels of service that are going to be provided through the Panther protocol. So they're going to have their own token called the Panther token, which has a finite supply, and it's a privacy preserving gas token used to pay for fees in the Panther ecosystem and also can be used to vote in the DAO. So they will have a DAO that will be launching sometime after the network goes live. Additionally, they're going to feature a layer one interchain DEX that allows users to transact between peer chains through private cross-chain transactions. So I think this is really cool. Let's say like there's one DeFi ecosystem you're on that has really high gas fees and you need to move through another to avoid that. You can go through this layer one interchain DEX. So I think that's a big deal. They're also going to be providing their own Panther wallet so you can manage your own keys. And then there will be kind of privacy miners, service providers, and trust providers that are all either providing liquidity or helping with the zero knowledge proofs that are going to help with like selective KYC and AML and the privacy of the tokens. Additionally, they're going to have some staking pools so that you can earn passive income. So that's something to look out for as well. And so basically, yeah, they're targeting, it's a cross chain protocol. So they're targeting Ethereum, Polkadot, Solana, Cosmos, Flare, Binance Smart Chain, and Avalanche. So pretty much all the big names. So pretty all encompassing solution here. And here we can see the roadmap. So currently they're setting up the project. They're going to launch in Q3 of this year, which will have a public sale associated with that if you would like to buy the Panther token, which is going to be their main governance token and used for fees like we were talking about. Additionally, it's going to be launching on Ethereum first. Most market values in Ethereum. So, I mean, I think that seems like a pretty smart place to launch at first. And then in the future, they'll be adding in the DAO and they'll be adding in the interchain DEX. And then in Q2 of 2020, they're going to be adding all their different peer chains. So that's when I imagine Flare will have Panther Protocol on it. It's Q2 of 2022. However, I haven't seen an exact timeline yet posted by the team. So maybe it's sooner, but just based on this roadmap, that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. And we're on the Panther Protocol light paper here. They haven't released an official white paper, but you can get to this via their website. So this kind of shows how this whole process is going to work. So you're going to have a user that wants to get they're calling it a P asset since this is older, but they're calling them Z assets now. So they want to get a private version of their asset. They'll send it through a gatekeeper who sends collateral to the Panther vault and then goes to the other gatekeeper on the other side that is providing the liquidity in the Z asset that goes back to the user. And then off of that, you have the Panther Vault and gatekeepers that are secret. They have a 2 of 2 secret sharing key management contract, and they relay signed transactions back to the vault to confirm anything that's going through here. So that's kind of the process there. It's going to have one-to-one backing for you to get a Z asset. So you put in your assets to the Panther Vault, for a fee, which the minting fee is lower than the like redemption fee. So it kind of entices people to keep their assets in Z assets. Also, yeah, you'll just kind of move through here and we'll go to the next part, which will give you a little clip of Oliver Gale, a recent interview he did, and just his thoughts on privacy in DeFi and currently like in the world of traditional finance.
So how do you translate that then into financial affairs? Because people don't often make that jump. I mean, they recognize you close the bathroom door, but then financial affairs, how do you sort of parlay that into sense?
So finance is a heavily regulated industry, if you will. And the finance industry, for good reason, has anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing regulations to limit, and in an effort to limit and prohibit bad actors from abusing the system. Cryptocurrencies, on the other hand, offer a public permissionless financial system, which ultimately, so now you have two forces which to some degree find themselves in opposition, but it doesn't mean that they can't be complementary to one another. And in fact, in many use cases, they already are. So if you look at the history of something like Bitcoin, regulators incorrectly spent the last 10 years claiming that Bitcoin was a tool for money laundering and a danger to society. And it seems that a decade later, the penny has dropped. And they recognize that actually these ledgers are pseudonymous, which is, there's a distinction to be made. Anonymity means you're acting and nobody can identify who you are. Pseudonymity, means that you're acting in a way behind an alias. And in the crypto space, with enough statistical information, you can often infer who the actor is. And given that the ledgers are immutable, it's a matter of building a transaction history on this forever database, and then using some statistical means to infer who the actor is. So, in fact, that is now used widely in that statistical tooling is used widely in the crypto industry in order to enforce anti-money laundering compliance regulations. Now, that's the application, and we've talked about the why, but if you really look at the picture, again, taking a step back, the nature of the financial services are that they offer some benefit to the citizen. And the citizen is prepared to make some compromise or disclosure in order to access a service which is to their benefit. And that's the nature, or should be the nature, of all commerce. So when you're engaging with a regulated financial institution who is rightly regulated, and you are an individual who is rightly sovereign as the individual, and you rightly own your own information, there needs to be a desire on your part to participate in the financial system. And on the other side, compromises that have to be made in order to access the services. And what that looks like is confidential disclosure, which is where a private individual makes the decision to disclose information to a party or a group of parties of their own volition in order to enable transactions. And so confidential disclosure is what is the current state of affairs in the financial system which we live in. Mm-hmm. And it is the state of affairs which should continue in the digital economy, where if an individual wants to participate, and let's make it very simple use case. You want to use a MasterCard, you have to do your KYCDD. If you don't want to be a part of the system, that's your sovereign choice to do so, but then you forego many of the benefits. And so the net impact is that financial services become more efficient and effective and create a greater value proposition for the user, and the user in turn is prepared to share their information, and B, go through the hurdles and the costs of becoming a user of the platform.
All right, so you heard it there from the founder of Panther Protocol himself. They are all about kind of finding that middle ground and compromise between governments, regulatory bodies, institutions, and retail, and all about sovereign choice. So you can kind of decide who you want to, have KYC and AML done with. And if you don't want to opt into their services, then you shouldn't have to provide that to them, which, I personally believe in. I'm huge on sovereign choice, especially of the individual. So I really like where this project's coming from. And, I'm really excited to see what they do on Ethereum first and then bringing it to Flare Network as well. So they're going to have a white paper coming out later this summer that's kind of going to go into tokenomics. But from what I've been able to dig up, these privacy protocols, the more liquidity in their pools, the more privacy that they offer. And you can kind of think of it this way: if you only have two like entities that have entered into a pool, well, it's easier to figure out, okay, well, who's coming out of this, even if the transaction is private. You're like, well, there's only a few that have entered into it. But if you have hundreds of thousands, millions of different entities entering into one of these pools, then it's much more private because you're not going to be able to track what's going on, like coming in and out of it. So that's kind of the nature of a dark pool. And also, as far as the tokenomics, they are building it to incentivize that the token price of the Panther token is going to increase as more liquidity is brought into the network and it becomes more private. So it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If the network does well, so will its governance token. But that's going to wrap up for now. This whole protocol that they're building is going to take a lot more deep diving in the future and more videos to cover. But hopefully, you guys kind of see what they're trying to do, and I hope you guys are just as excited as me and Mickey are, and the rest of the DeFi Standard team. It's a very interesting project, and I think it's something that can benefit everybody, which is really exciting, and especially since they are going to be coming to Flare Network. Anyway, I hope everybody has a great weekend. Happy Friday. I'm Patty XRP, and I'm dipping out for today.